I hit my stride on the second one.
Oh man, there we go. That was some nice licks there.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Zac Broyles from the pedal brand Mythos, who we met. We were trying to decide beforehand whether a few things happened simultaneously, didn't it? Sort of you did a pedal for Rob and a pedal for Joey, and I think you made Touch, and then I think we were talking about coming to Nashville for the NAMM show, and you're like, that's where I live. And anyway, things collided. But you, when I first met you, you were sort of working at Carter's.
Yes.
One of the most famous vintage guitar stores in the universe.
Well, yeah. One of them.
So tell us how you got into working there, and how the journey took you into pedals.
Well, yeah, I've been making pedals for since I started, with the Mythos name around 2010, and it never really was like a serious thing. It was just something I did for fun, and I wanted to get more serious at it, and I was trying to do something else in Nashville. I wanted to be in the guitar world in some form or another. And I just happened to be in there talking to the owners saying, hey, do you need any help? And Christy Carter, I was talking to her, and someone walked up and asked a pedal question. And I just took them and took care of it. And she's like, come in next week. And so that's when that started. And from there, I helped, redo their website. And with the current photographer, we redid their Instagram and started doing all the videos with Joey and all that stuff. And it really became even more than what the shop already was, which is pretty special.
Did you have a background then in sort of marketing or web design? Or?
Yeah, so I was telling Pete earlier, Mythos is the third job I've ever had.
Right.
Second job being Carter's, and the first job I worked with my dad, we sold Christmas lights, and he still does that. So he had the first, one of the first Christmas light stores online in 1994.
94?
Yeah, 94, so quite some time ago. So I helped him do web management, and I designed stuff and did that with him.
Oh, that's cool, man.
Yeah.
So tinkering with pedals, what were you doing? Was it just a fascination from a sales side of things at Carter's, or were you repairing stuff? I mean, how do you get into the pedal world?
I started kind of like Josh Scott, and like a lot of people in the early 2000s, I got Brian Wampler. He had a book on how to modify stuff, because I've always been incessant tinkerer.
Right.
And so I started just, modifying things, and then slowly, that evolved into building. And, at first it was very much like, I can't afford a Klon, so I'll make one for myself. And from there it slowly evolved into chasing sounds in my head or being inspired by, other circuits or, doing that. But at Carter, it was a beautiful education just on guitar sound, because they had all this amazing gear, and, so much stuff came through that I was really lucky to, say I've played a real blues breaker with a burst and vintage Strats through old, pre-CBS Fender, amps. And so I got an education in tone, and that I think helped me more than anything.
Yeah.
Which is pretty
I still can't believe it's been 10 years. So 10th anniversary of Mythos this year.
Yeah, well, I mean,
When did you start, when you were 12 or something?
No, I was in my 20s. But I mean, again, at first it was just for myself, and then I make another one for a friend, and something like that. It was not very serious in the beginning.
But I mean, we can kind of take back, because this is. Let me stand by, otherwise I'm going to make a big clunk here. I mean, the Mjolnir has been your kind of, or one of your most popular pedals ever since day one. But is this its first form? Should we go underneath here or straight to camera, Tay? What would you prefer? Underneath here. So that's the original Mjolnir.
So the very first ones, I used water slide decals like for a model car.
Yeah.
And I cut everything out, and it looked basically like this, only really ugly.
Right.
And so this is like something I just did for fun as kind of like a 10th anniversary. And this circuit was kind of like this circuit, which I made for you, which is like more of an homage to the classic K style circuit. But that one has a few tweaks that I did way back when. And the original ones looked kind of like that, only had side jacks, and it wasn't pedalboard friendly.
It's amazing, isn't it, how the Klon has reached, mythical levels, almost only really seen with something like Dumble, maybe. There's even Les Pauls and Strats. I think I've probably met more people that have played a real 59 Les Paul than I have actually played a real Klon.
Right,
It's like, And yeah, maybe Dumble even more niche than that. But what is it, do you think, about that circuit that seems to draw people to either want one or copy it or...
Well, for me, initially it was cost. I wanted one, but back then it was like, they were $800 or something. They were nowhere close to what they're demanding today. And it was scarcity at first, but it is a really special circuit. How, and again, we owe all this to Bill. I can't claim any ownership over that circuit, and, none of us really can. But the way the gain knob works and the Mjolnir functions just the same is when it's down, it's a clean mix all the way up. And so it retains all your guitar and your amp's characteristics. And then as you blend the gain up, you're getting the clipping circuit starting to interact, and it just has a very natural, unobtrusive sound that I think works, for most players. You can find a usable tone. I feel like the people that don't like it just haven't spent enough time with it, because it is kind of its own thing.
Yeah, I don't think I've met anybody that doesn't... I think I've met plenty of people that object to the idea of spending £2,000 or £3,000 on a pedal, which is what it would cost you to find a real one now. But I don't know many people. There've been several brands have built their reputation on their clone of a clone.
Right.
It's so great that the name even sounds like clone.
I know.
It's almost like he made it that way.
I don't think he was planning for that.
No. So the Mjolnir was your sort of first one, and
yeah.
And how did was it a very typical, did you build one for yourself and then a buddy said, oh, how much can you build me one? And then the next thing you know, you're building like 10 a month and you're going, well, maybe I could do this for a living? Or?
Exactly. So, at first, it was, I made two. I made one for me, and I told a friend, I was like, I think I'm going to make one of these and put a name on it. And he said, well, make me one. So I made two. And again, that was in 2010, so that was quite some time ago. But yeah, it's slowly but surely, I took it around to some local shops, and it started to, get a little traction. But it wasn't really until I gave one to Rob, and when I first met Joey, I just said, hey, I make pedals, can I build you one? He said, yeah, sure, make it orange. And so I did that, and then he wound up on that pedal show, and from there it just kind of, Rob being here and everything just kind of changed my life. It's pretty incredible.
So let me just think, it's not that long ago, like I'm thinking 3 or 4 years ago, that you decided that you could leave Carter's and make a living doing this full time, right?
Yeah, I left at the end of 2017 in December.
Right,
yeah.
Okay. Was that, now you were married then, but you didn't have any kids, did you? So
we had just found out we were having a kid.
Oh, okay.
When I left, which is pretty, it seems stupid.
So, if anybody out there is kind of thinking, maybe they're in a similar position or thinking about it, is it just something you've just got to go for? Is it just impossible to try and do this whilst holding down a regular job at the same time?
Well, it depends on how well you're doing. For me, it was just I couldn't have a life and do this and do Carter's. And so I felt like if I didn't take the chance, the opportunity was just going to leave. And so I just tried it because at the end of the day, I could do something else if I had to. But if I didn't try this, it may have just never worked. And like we were saying earlier, I feel like I entered in the right time to really find a foothold in a very crowded market.
Yeah.
So
the pedal thing now, it did feel like when we first met, and I think number one, you're a really nice guy. So at the end of the day, it's one of those, it's not difficult to go, okay, well, as long as you've got something we can sell, maybe we'll give it a try. But I think nowadays, I'm very much, when I'm approached by new pedal companies now, I'm either going, so do you have a technological breakthrough here? Have you done something that's groundbreaking? Or do you have an incredible story, which normally involves an artist or maybe the pedal builder themselves has a good background in music.
Right.
And so many pedal brands are like, well, I haven't really got either. I've just got a selection of pedals that are kind of copies of other pedals, and maybe they've got some fancy artwork on them. And it's tough now. I think 5 years ago that was probably enough to go, oh, okay, I'll check them out. Now it's brutal, man.
Yeah.
But so you got your foot in the door, I think, just at the right time. But that in itself's not enough. You've still got to be able to have an ear to build some good pedals to attract the artists to want to play them.
Right.
So, when you're making pedals, you're obviously taking something that's gone before you as an inspiration, and then are you just going, I wonder what it would sound like if I just changed out this component or this one, or tried a different order of components, or what's the process?
Well, it depends on what the end point you're trying to reach, because sometimes like the Chupacabra, for example, so I wanted ZZ Top in a box. So Billy Gibbons is my hero, and I wanted that sound. So initially I just started tweaking circuits I knew. I started with the Golden Fleece. So I was like, that's kind of fuzzy. When you roll it back, it kind of sounds like that. And it took me like 6 different prototypes to just get the feel right. And so sometimes, it's just like, well, let's see what happens when we change the clipping, like it has soft clipping or hard clipping, or what happens when we, introduce different biasing for components. It can be really minor in some instances, and then some things, it's like I kind of know where I want to start. Like the Herculean, I wanted to start with something that was 808-ish, but take away the things I didn't like and introduce things I did. And so I kind of had that as a template. And now it's if you look at it on paper, it looks different than an 808, but it kind of feels the same. So that was, there's whole different like routes to go, but for me, I think of the end first, and however I get there it's not always the same.
I know you've done some signature pedals, but it sounds to me like you're building for a tone that you want to enjoy. Right. And I think there are different kind of builders, aren't there? There are builders that don't even play the guitar, and they'll be responding entirely to what musicians around them are asking for, and trying to interpret that. But it sounds to me like you've had plenty of experience with guitars and gear, and but tell us about some of the crazy rigs that you would have got to play in Carter's then that would then inspire some of the.
Well, I mean, a lot of it is not like, because most of the thing when I play guitar, it's usually an amp and a pedal and a guitar and an amp and maybe a few pedals, and like the things that I look for is more about the response, the way it feels under your fingers and under your pick. Those are the things that I'm really paying attention to. And then some of the things, like the Lark, for example, was to sound like a vintage Gibson amplifier, and so I wanted to kind of go in that direction and things like that. But a lot of that just really gave me the attention to hear the nuances in sound that sometimes you might overlook, like, oh, this has a little bit of noise here, or we could take down the treble here, or something like that. So I think that education, advised a lot about what direction I would take sound.
Is it a journey that you think all certainly analog pedal brands go on, but your journey's very much was all about drives and fuzzes and distortions and stuff, right up until fairly recently. Is it a very different approach designing a pedal that's perhaps a more an effect, like a tremolo or a chorus or whatever, or is it the same process?
No, it's a lot harder to do echoes and tremolos and chorusing and stuff. I mean, there's so many more variables that go into it, and I mean the one of the reasons why I make so many drives and fuzzes, because that's what I like. Yeah. Which is maybe not the best business model to have, but that's just kind of where I live as a guitar player. And so doing these other things has kind of pushed me to really educate myself on how these things work and do something that's a little more interesting, because you can only make so many fuzz or overdrives before people are like, okay, let's try something new.
Is there a basic set though that's kind of like Klon, Marshall in a box, Tube Screamer? Is there because I remember doing a video with Chris Buck, fabulous guitar player, Chris Buck. If you don't know him, go check him out. And his board, when he came in, it's pretty big. It's probably the size of this table. Right. And it's like 75% of the pedals on the board are drive pedals.
Right, they're mostly blues breakers or something.
Yeah. And everything. And it really whet my appetite to go on explore this journey, because for me, all the good sounds that Chris was saying, oh, this is a good combination, it was like, it's these two or these three with these settings. And so I've kind of gone down that same, my current board is 5-6 drive pedals on it. And sometimes in isolation, I sometimes start to question myself about going, pretty sure these three sound exactly the same. But somehow on, maybe with different guitars or different combinations, maybe just different days of the week sometimes, it's just like, you go, oh, that sounds great. So, tell us about the different, drive pedals that are in your armory, and
Right.
what maybe some of your favorite combinations are.
So, you mentioned the Herculean. This is it's my thing that wants to live in the same realm as something like the Timmy or the Jan Ray or the Lightspeed, but it's not a derivative of any of those. But it's very 808, slightly mid forward, and then of course the Mjolnir, which is my Klon style circuit. This one is the new top mount version. I can never leave well enough alone, so I've continually tried to make it even more everyman friendly. So it's a little darker, a little less low mids, and the gain structures a little differently, or works a little differently. And then the Chupacabra, that's the ZZ Top thing. So that's really biting and aggressive. It likes like a really mid forward amp, something like a Marshall, to really sound more like Billy. But those are the main 3 drives, and then I like running, drives rather low and then stacking a fuzz, kind of like what you were doing.
Right.
Or using a boost, the Cestus is my clean boost, in conjunction, or having 2 drive pedals set pretty low and putting them together. I mean, it's what most people do. But the ones I really like are, I like the Chupacabra and the Herculean together. And I like the Mjolnir with a little bit of just boost from the Cestus.
Can we just, you just
Sure.
play and stack a couple in,
Sure.
just see
So
what it sounds like?
So we'll actually try the drive out of the Sus Mario Sep, which is actually this circuit.
Right.
So this was one I did for RJ Ronquillo. It's an echo, a drive, and a boost. But if we turn the drive on, can I use this as a booster?
Yeah. Yeah.
No copyright strikes.
That's great. Funnily enough, it begins to get that very chewy kind of ZZ vibe out of it, didn't it? More as you turned it up there.
Right. With it low, it just kind of has like a push tweed. And then as you crank it,
it's wicked. So you said that the drive section appears from the Herculean.
Yeah.
So if you went for something, I'm just trying to think, what's the order of the pedals here? We're going
they're
in
going
here,
like this
aren't we?
way, that way. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Cool. So we could absolutely do, I don't know, Mjolnir into that if you wanted to.
Yeah. So if I would run that kind of low again, and then flavor the tape. So without that mid range, it's a little. You kind of hear the hollowness of the mids.
Flippin' hell, man. And just give us a clean chord, just to... So we've got no drive from the amp at all, just a very, very flat, clean tone.
Right.
Sounds wicked. And then if we went down a conventional, kind of just straightforward boost into...
Right, well we can try that with this.
Yep.
So we get the...
Sounds great. Golden Fleece, which is a bit more fuzzy. Now, we were talking before again, I've not really found my fuzz pedal to love yet.
Maybe we'll change that.
But maybe it is about stacking it rather than using it in isolation. So on its own, it's just this sort of...
But the cool
I
thing
really
about
like
it...
that. It's got to be just me. I just can't play the guitar, that's the problem.
Well,
That
turn it
sounds
on
good.
again, and then if you kind of ride it, you can kind of get a little bit more expression
And
out
then
of
what
it.
are you stacking that with then? I'm feeling like not that one.
No,
right?
that would probably be a little much. We
maybe
could
this
try it
one?
with this.
You you've got that big bloom, haven't you? You can hear the initial compression and then the bloom after the, immediately afterwards.
Right. So a lot of people ask, is the Golden Fleece silicon, germanium, etc.? And it's a single transistor. It's not like a fuzz face that has like multiple transistors. So it's just an amplifier, and then I'm clipping the wave with diodes. So it kind of has this weird compression thing that happens when you hit really hard. If you lighten up.
That's wicked. Just to be clear, what if we've just got the echo on very slight. Oh, like a slapback.
Yeah.
And this isn't on, is it?
No.
No, it's just like, it's the angle I'm at, the light shining
jewel,
on the light, so it looks like it was, but it's not on. I was in the jam, I plugged in this Argonaut thing, which... So just tell me, because these two pedals are obviously there's something in common. But
Similar vein.
what's the deal with these two?
So this one is my take on the COB, the prescription electronics, and that means clean octave blend.
Right.
Which is a boost, an octave fuzz, and then a blend for the clean signal. And I was monkeying around with just having just an octave up. So it's not really like, this isn't technically from this, but it kind of has the same idea. And I thought, why not confuse people by naming them with similar things? So the Argo, you have this clean blend. And as you turn the blend up, you get all the fuzz. You can blend it out, turn the fuzz up. So that does that whole thing, and that stacks really well too, but the Argonaut is just the cleanest
This
octave.
was the one, because I'm going, this is tiny. This you can put on everybody's going to have this much space on their board somewhere.
Right.
And if we put this, I had it in between. In fact, you've got pretty much exactly, I had this kind of setup. Want that.
And when you use it by itself, it sounds kind of weird.
Oh, does it? Okay.
Yeah, it kind of has like almost like a ring mott. Whoop. And then, but when you use it with the fuzz before it, it kind of has more of a Hendrixian. Or just the drive after.
You've nailed the mix on this, because it's a really nice. Are there internal controls, or is this just? Because whatever you've done, then the way it's blending between the drive sound and the octave is just perfect.
Thank you. I get on eBay, and I want to give away my secret, and buy a bunch of old Russian parts.
Right.
Because that's the only place you can find this stuff in bulk. And I actually, on all the Argonauts, myself or my wife will hand match every diode pair, so that they're the same forward voltage, and that's what gives the harmonics. And with the drive just after it, without the fuzz on, it's... You kind of hear those weird...
Oh man, it's some of the best sounds we've had in here for a long time. Wow. Okay, I'm super impressed. I'm glad we've done this. I'm enjoying this. It's all cool. Okay, well look, tell us about Ron and how you met it. Well, in fact, artist-wise, you've been quite fortunate, haven't you? Because there's a few guys have approached you to sort of do stuff. Mm-hmm. Is that a Nashville thing, or is it just because you're out there on social media and you're reaching out? And
I think it's a little bit of both. I try really hard to, honestly, how I approach most collaborations is I just want to be friends with people, and that might be weird for some to think, but I just want to get to know these guys, and if like an idea comes later, cool. But if not, well, at least we're friends. Yeah. So being in Nashville is really a great place to be, because so many people either come through there and I can go see them or meet them, or there's so many people there just period. So with Joey, with Rhett, with RJ, and Josh Smith was actually influential
Right.
in having me make that. He said he wanted just a mini thing with no knobs, and I was like, okay. So he helped me he gave me the kick in the pants to make it. But yeah, I've been really lucky.
They're fantastic. So okay, so so this is Rhett Shell, right? Mm-hmm. And Ron, I always
RJ Ronquillo.
Ronquillo. Yeah, I've seen him on YouTube doing loads of videos, either on his own channel or for other people. But I guess I didn't realize that he was as big as he was.
Right.
Rhett obviously has gone crazy on YouTube
Yeah,
over the last couple of years, and is a great guitar player. In fact, funnily enough, another guy with a Novo, isn't he?
Yeah.
We'll talk about that in a minute. So, well, just take us through. What do these guys come to you and say?
So
what did Rhett want?
Rhett, his favorite amp is a little Skylark amp, which is the ones from the mid '60s were basically like a champ with a tremolo.
Okay.
And so he wanted that sort of drive sound in in a box, because nobody's really done that. So this one's a little different than the one I had at NAMM, which Pete heard, but with the gain down, it's just kind of a boosty preamp thing. It just sounds like a little.
Yeah.
It just kind of makes things sound smaller.
Yeah.
And then as you turn the overdrive up, which it's like,
Yeah, I was
who
gonna say,
would want
who would
that?
want
But
that?
hey, that's what
Yeah.
it does. As you turn it up, it gets kind of gnarly.
It's a great sound.
Yeah, it's
That's a
pretty
good chord as
straightforward.
well. What chord was that? With the extra.
Yeah, the
It's a good chord.
I don't know.
It's a good chord.
I just know.
I know. It's the G with the extra thing.
Right, that one.
So you've got the overdrive maxed out,
Mm-hmm.
loudness pretty much all the way up, and now you wanted the tremolo, just because again that would have been on the original little amp. wouldn't
Right. Yeah, and original amp had loudness and frequency.
it? Right.
So the frequency control is the speed. So turn this down a little bit. With it all the way down, it's about as slow as the amp will go.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that's interesting about it, if you turn the overdrive up, if you have it a little slower, when you hit really hard, the tremolo kind of goes away. Depth kind of comes back when you pick lightly. And internally there are the trim pots for presence, body, and the depth of the tremolo, because this is just speed. So
That sounds great.
Yeah.
What, is this artwork from the Skylark, or is that
kind of.
Rhett's thing? Or?
So we wanted, on those amps from Kalamazoo, in that era, they had a little like water slide crest, like just a little shield thing,
Yeah.
a little coat of arms. And we wanted to do one ourselves, and so he had one of his friends is a graphic artist, and she designed that.
Right.
And some people said, well, that's not one you make. I'm like, yeah, it is. It just doesn't have
Yeah.
Zeus on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really proud of it. It's unique.
I think it's wicked. And then I have to be honest with you, just the faders rather than pots just make me want that pedal as well.
It was a nightmare.
Really? What?
Yeah. Well, every single like slider, every potentiometer that's a trim pot like that or a pot like that,
Yeah.
the little connections are all in different places, and they're all different ones. Like one will be 3-2-1, and one will be 1-2-3, and they're all different. So it took me forever to get it right, but I finally dialed it in. And yeah, it's so much fun.
So he's got echo, boost, and the drive from a Herculean in the middle.
Right.
So that's a one pedal, solution for a lot of guitar players.
Right. And
That's cool.
That was his idea. He does like pickup gigs around town every now and again. Mm-hmm. Or if he's doing a demo of something, because he does a weekly live stream, just to have a little consistency and have all the sounds that he used
Yeah.
in one box. And so, so the Echo is set to be a slap, but there's little trim pots on the side that we can adjust in a minute.
Right.
To get basically most normal analog, or Echo sounds like, it's not analog.
So that'll go up to what, like about a second, or just
It
under
goes,
a
it's
second?
450 milliseconds.
Okay, half a
so it's
second,
not,
yeah.
And that's just mix. So. And that's all he uses.
Yeah,
Like a little
cool.
slap. And then the drive again is from that. And then the boost, all the way down, it's a tiny bit of a boost. It's very loud.
Did you have to invent him like a tiny pair of shoes as well? Just
I know,
pointy bit to get to the middle one.
You have to wear pointy shoes on that one. I know. I told him that. I was like, this is going to be hard to, tap toe on, but,
It's a great color as well. I mean,
yeah, we wanted it to match his guitar.
And all the writing's got a real kind of surfy 60s kind of vibe
it's funny.
to it,
So Sus Mario Sepp is his family is from the Philippines.
Right.
And so a Filipino expression that mothers yell at their children is Sus Mario Sepp, which means Jesus married Joseph.
Right.
Which is, why are you playing the guitar so loud? And so the writing on that, and then these fonts are actually from jeepneys, which are those the big buses that, have you seen those? You know what I'm talking? Oh, they're these gigantic buses that are just decorated with all sorts of stuff on it, and people ride all over them. And so these fonts are actually from classic Filipino culture, which is funny.
Well, so anything else coming this year then? Are you going to reissue this in this format?
Well, I'm making a small number of them just to commemorate
10 years.
10 years.
I can't believe that.
I can't either.
That's amazing. Okay, and anything else coming this year? I mean, what's on the sort of, what's in the playbook?
I have to do more modulation.
Right.
I want to, and I found some sources for analog chips, so I want to start diving into analog chorus and vibrato and echo. I was making the Oracle. You guys might have seen that. It's like a pretty involved digital delay,
right.
But I've had a lot of trouble with some noise. And at the end of the day, like we were saying earlier, I make this stuff for me to play. And if something's too complicated, or I would rather have something simple, I probably shouldn't make it, because who am I to sell something that I wouldn't use? At least that's how I approach all of this.
Well, I have got one other question, which I always keep meaning to ask. Obviously the miniature pedal is, suits a lot of players because they want to squeeze more pedals onto their board and stuff. But you've got some pedals in your range where there's like a big and a small version of the same pedal. I'm sure I've seen the Golden Fleece in it. Was originally a big, there it is. When you approach the small, is it just about ensuring they're identical components just laid out differently to fit into the smaller enclosure? Or does it become a different pedal by becoming smaller?
Most of the time when I transition to a smaller enclosure, because everything, if it was big and it's small now, it's just going to stay small.
Right.
And it's because I've learned how to design better, and I can put it in a small box, because if it only has one knob, I don't think it needs to be in a box this big. So that's really my only thought about it, is if I could fit it in something small and it does its job, why not make it like that?
Yeah.
And I've come a long way in doing layouts to make use of every single available piece of space on a circuit board, which is sometimes easier said than done.
Well, yeah, and so, sorry, you were saying, so the delay probably isn't going to happen this year. What's the one with the AU written on it?
That was one I made for a shop in Kansas called Mass Street Music, and that actually is more of that, because they have done great, and they wanted to do something exclusive, and that's something that it kind of works for me, being a one-man, or myself and my wife, a two-person operation, that, if somebody wants to do something,
yeah, no,
we can do it,
I think it's just coming, I'm torn really between sort of going, do we just pick a couple of our favorite pedals and come up with some cool colors and some cool artwork, or do we just go on a completely new style of drive, or is it, some of these combinations where you're stacking pedals up, is that the way to go, just to sort of,
yeah, absolutely,
in one pedal?
And that's, for them, they just wanted something fun and unique and just slightly different. So it's the Golden Fleece with a little less gain, which is what the earliest ones were. They're way less. They don't fart out as much. I think it's a good way, but yeah.
Well, I'm pretty confident that Pete and I will be talking about just talking about what pedals we like and what combinations we should do in them. I should say as well, if you're also wondering, there's a shameless plug here for another guitar pedal that we sell. Zac worked with our very own chappers to do the snake oil pedals.
Right.
So again, if you want to, they look completely different, but they're 2 drive pedals that you might want to check out as well. I don't know, man. It's just great to hear that things are going well for you. I'm loving the fact that you and your wife have got a business that you can run together, that you both obviously enjoy doing, and you're bringing up a family at the same time. It's like living the dream.
Yeah, I guess.
and keeping it, big enough that you can treat yourself to, a nice family holiday once a year or something like that.
Yeah.
But not so big that you're stressed out and can't think of anything else. And
I feel really fortunate and really lucky, and again, it's weird. It's a lot of it is because people ask me like, when did it really start? And I'm like, well, kind of when Andertons got me, because that was, you guys, and of course Riff City, rest in peace.
There was a perfect storm around about that time.
Yeah.
And I do remember, I tell you who's going to get a shout out here. It's probably Nigel Spennywen. I'm just saying, because he was the guy that gave me the Brothers Landreth album.
Oh.
That I literally just went, and it's the only time I've ever fanboyed out and actually emailed them and gone, oh, you probably never heard of us, but please come on the show. And then Joey, he was like, yeah, man, we're definitely, and then through them we meet you. And so all these weird things that if it doesn't happen, then, loads of knock-on things don't happen as well. But look, it's a pleasure. It's an absolute pleasure to sell your pedals and know that the people that are buying them are going to get a great sounding pedal, and the proceeds are going to go to a lovely human being. What's not to like about that?
Exactly.
So there you go. I'm very happy with it. It's absolutely lovely to have you over here. Enjoy your trip.
Yeah.
Have fun in London.
Going to.
And there we go. Thank you guys for watching. Any questions? I'm sure Zac will read the comments here. So you got any questions? Post them below or dive on over to Zac's site. And anyway, that's it. Thank you for watching, guys. See you next time.